what is up YouTube, Kolst here. So I'm making this first video about the mini set, which was announced I believe a couple days ago, and it is going to release very soon on Tuesday, June 1st. So very exciting. If you're not aware, as usual, as it has here, you can buy it with gold or money, and you can also get it from packs if you have Sunken City packs as well. And as of recording this video, I believe 23 cards out of the 35 have already been revealed. So we're going to go through and talk about them. And one special note for Arena is that one of them has already been preemptively banned. So we'll talk about which card that is when we get there. Of course, if you like these kind of reviews, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. But let's get right into it. So because I usually use the Hearthstone website, but it's just not great for these mini set releases with how they do it. So we're gonna go by the pre-release reveal chart here on Reddit. So shout out to the guys that do that. I believe 20 of them are here. There's a few new ones that the priest ones aren't on here, so we'll go to Twitter for that one. But with that, let's just start out with these. The first one here is Moonbeam. This is a Druid spell. Deal 1 mana, deal 1 damage to enemy twice. The idea would be, you have spell damage, and then this gets better, but it's an arcane shot that you can go face, very notable. Malagos Druids are gonna love it, but most of the time, it's basically an arcane shot or maybe an arcane blast on a minion, right? But it's gonna be pickable, but you're not gonna expect to abuse it super hard in Arena, so not gonna be super premium there. Next one we have here is Herald of Nature. This is a 3 mana 3/3 Naga. Battle Cry. If you cast a nature spell while holding this, give your other minions +1/+2. So that's better than a Power of the Wild buff. And overall, it's an easy activation because you have a lot of nature spells typically in Druid, even in Arena. So this is a pretty easy thing. And, with the AoE buff, it means you probably can't do it on curve necessarily, but by the time you would have a whiteboard, you'd probably have it active. Because it's just easy to trigger, you can imagine that once you have it, it's kind of like you get both sides of a Power of the Wild, but slightly better a little bit. So I think this is going to be not like an overwhelming premium card, but I think it will be good for most Druids, especially if you have that kind of aggressive playstyle, and you'll probably just have nature spells. Of course, if you don't have nature spells, then don't pick it. Next one we have here is Spirit of the Tides. This is a 2 mana 2/2 elemental. There's going to be a few more elementals. With the effect, if you have any unspent mana at the end of your turn, gain +1/+2. So if you can combo this with the 4/5 that gets discounted when you have excess mana, ooh, you can get some value. But basically, the way you want to think about this, I guess you could play it on 2 if you have nothing else to do, right? But you can also just view this as a 3 mana 3/4 with potential upside. Just gaining +1/+2 wouldn't probably be worth, consistently playing off curve if you had on curve options, right? But it's basically, I think you would just view it that way. It's a 3/4, 3 mana 3/4 that's sometimes better. So pretty decent overall. Probably not. There is some blowout potential, especially if you can get multiple of them, then, probably just gonna be a rather vanilla minion most of the time. Now we're moving on to Shaman here. Shaman has a couple Murlocs here. The first one being Clownfish. This is a 3 mana 3/2 Battle Cry. Your next 2 Murlocs cost 2 less. I mean, essentially, if you can use this effect immediately, imagine you have another 3 mana Murloc or something, you could play this on turn 4 and the other Murloc, and then you basically get a 1 mana 3/2, and then you still have another discount, right? There is some potential here. However, just looking at, we'll talk about the next one as well, but they're only getting 1 other Murloc, and from what we can see right now, there probably just isn't enough support to really make this consistent in Arena, right? If you already have a few Murlocs, because one of the key Murlocs that you do have, I believe, is, Piranha Poacher. This one is, one of the top ones you might be able to combo with, but just that's kind of the only one. We'll have to see. We don't know all the neutral cards yet. If there are multiple good neutral Murlocs put into the game, then maybe this becomes better. But my prediction right now is that it's just not really going to be worth going for these Murlocs. But, we'll have to see, reevaluate once the whole set is revealed. Because the other Murloc here, as I kind of alluded to, is Tide Lost Burrower. This is a 4 mana 4/4 Battle Cry Dredge. If it's a Murloc, summon another 2/2 copy, summon a 2/2 copy of it. It's a little awkward because it shows your opponent what you got, which could be a little weird, but I mean, it's a Murloc. What's the big surprise, right? But yeah, because this is another one where, a 4 mana 4/4 Battle Cry Dredge just isn't good enough, really, right? It's not horrifically bad, but it's just not, there's better things in Arena nowadays to pick. So you wouldn't want it just for that. You would want to have a lot of Murlocs, and you're just probably not going to have a lot of Murlocs. So again, like overall, I think the whole Murloc thing, at least as we can see right now, just isn't going to be worth it. What is going to be worth it right here is Command of Neptulon. This is a 5 mana nature spell. Summon 2 5/4 elementals with Rush. But if you think that's really strong, it's okay because it has Overload 1, so it's balanced, right? And here's just the minion that you get. But yeah, I mean, this is like pre-nerf Faceless Corruptor that doesn't even have to sacrifice a minion. Basically, you know, this is a warrior card, and it's actually, because warrior has generally bad cards, it's actually one of warrior's better cards, period, right now. But for 1 extra mana and 1 overload, you just get 2 of them. Okay. It's just, this is going to be one of Shaman's best cards, periods. So it's going to be one of the best class cards in the game, period. It's just, you get way too much. So with that, that's Shaman. So Shaman getting 2 probably not great cards, but 1 insane card. With that, let's move on to Rogue. So Rogue has Jackpot here. This is a 2 mana spell, common, rarity. Add 2 random spells from other classes that cost 5 or more to your hand. So what's interesting is it wasn't that long ago, I feel like, that there was 2 mana, add 2 random spells. That was also a rogue card, but this one is just cards that cost 5 or more. Now, so theoretically, that should guarantee, you know, a lot of those crappy 1 mana spells, you can't get them. So this makes this just a lot more value, which should be very good. However, it's worth noting that even in like cards that cost 5 or more, there's some like really terrible ones, you know, like Sigil of Reckoning and Proving Grounds. You know, there are still some very bad big spells. So it's not guaranteed, but overall, I think you're going to get very good things. At least one of the 2 spells you get is probably going to be very good. So this should be a very strong value card. It also has, you know, other class synergy and stuff. So this should be a pretty good rogue card overall. But very random. Which card I do not think will be good, though, is this one. This is Shatter Shambler. This is a 1 mana 1/3 Battle Cry. Your next Death Rattle minion costs 1 less, but immediately dies when played. So there are some cards in Arena, a lot of them are actually neutral that you might actually like this, you know, like if you have like, I mean, obviously like a Nerubian Egg or something, right? You could do this. But you need like those very specific synergies, because overall having a Death Rattle minion die, even if you're discounted, whatever, like you want to use both. You want to use the main body most of the time, right? So unless you have like very specific synergies for this card seems very, very bad. I guess it's worth noting though, if you're on like pick 28 and you don't have any Death Rattles at all, then this is just a 1 mana 1/3 and then it becomes pickable. But this is going to be one of those cards that just generally is very risky to draft. You're probably not going to want to most of the time. With that, let's talk about the card which was preemptively banned. We have that here. It is Inkveil Ambusher. This is a 2 mana 1/2 Naga stealth, which has +3 attack and immune while attacking. So basically, it's on your opponent's turn, it's only a 1/2, but on your turn, it's a 4/2 immune, and it also has stealth until it attacks, which means you can keep it stealth if you want, theoretically. But as I mentioned, this card is already being banned. Zeddy saw this card and he's like, oh, immune while attacking. Let's get rid of this card. And Matt London agreed. He actually said, like, yep, we'll do it. But what's interesting about it is that, as we know here, he says it was either Keaton or Gallon, 2 of the other devs on the main team. So he said they actually pre-banned it before he even knew what it did. So that's very interesting, actually, because it's really cool that that means that these guys are still thinking about Arena. I think, you know, the reason for that is these were probably the same people. Whoever banned this was probably the same person who decided to ban Ramming Mount as well. So they, you know, they saw the immune while attacking, realized, yeah. Because if you just like, imagine, I think the worst situation would be you just coin this out on turn 1 and your opponent's just like, oh crap, right? So I think it's good that they're just banning this card, because yeah, it would be very, very good. A lot of times, like, it probably wouldn't do that much, but yeah, it would just win games sometimes by itself, and not, in my opinion, not healthy for a 2 mana card. So with that, let's move on to Warlock. Warlock has 3 cards here as the other classes. This one is Herald of Shadows. 3 mana 4/2 Battle Cry. If you've cast a shadow spell while holding this, steal 2 health from a minion. So theoretically, this could be like a 3 mana 4/4 deal 2, which is very good, right? The issue with it, however, obviously it's not worth it if you can't activate it, and also, especially on like turn 3, like super early, you're very unlikely to have actually played a shadow spell already. You could have like played like Drain Soul or that thing that shuffles into your deck, you know, but most of the time you won't, so that makes it a little sketchy. on curve. So thus, I think it's not going to be a card you're always going to want. Obviously, if you have a bunch of cheap shadow spells, it's great, but a lot of times you just won't have the synergy for it. So probably overall not super premium there. Next card we have here is Immolate. This is a 4-mana rare fire spell. This is very interesting. Light every card in the opponent's hand on fire. In 3 turns, any still in hand are destroyed. So this has a lot of this has obviously big implications for combo decks in Constructed. I feel like one of the problems though is that combo decks kill you too fast, and then you won't necessarily be able to get value out of this. But for Arena, it's a bit of a meme pick, right? I'm trying to like justify it in my head to think it might be worth it, but it's so risky to run against a tempo deck, right? You do have the upside that if you play it on turn 4, your opponent, like if they have this needs in hand, they're gonna lose it, right? You know, so there's like potential, but it's the big issue is that it's just 4 mana do nothing, and you're probably just going to die if you play it. There are some like niche situations again where like if your opponent plays a Miracle Growth, imagine they play a Miracle Growth and you Siphon Soul Immolate them, it would be hilarious, right? But it's probably just a little hard to make work. Maybe you discover it sometimes if your opponent is going in that direction where they have a huge hand size, but very risky, and against any tempo deck it's basically dead, so probably not what you want. But with that, let's move on to the last Warlock card here, which is Commander Ulthok. This is a 5-mana 7/7 Battle Cry. Your opponent's cards cost health instead of mana next turn. So this is also a very, very interesting card. You probably would not want to combo with Immolate. That might not work very well. But yeah, so I think this is actually the one thing to address with this card is that you're not playing this on turn 5 ever. If you play this on turn 5, you will lose like 90% of the time. Particularly if you haven't damaged the opponent yet. They're going to be free to play 15-20 mana worth of stuff, and you're just going to lose. Straight up, right? Like you'll just be completely dead, and you can't even, you won't even be able to play like Twisting Nether. Yeah, right. Like they'll kill you before you can. So like you would never ever play this on curve, unless, I mean, if you had a whole bunch of 1 and 2 drops and you're already killing your opponent on turn 5, then you could. Because the whole point of this card, I think, especially probably in general, but in Arena too, is that you place an aggressive deck, knock them low enough that they can't actually use their health as a resource, because if they do, then you'll just kill them, right? Because what you can imagine is if they have 10 mana and 10 health, they would rather spend their mana. That's the whole point, right? So this thing is kind of like a super low thub, with the condition that you have to have knocked your opponent low already. Play it in like the mid to late game and just finish them off, essentially, kind of like you would use a low thub. Overall, I think in the right deck, this card is absolutely insane, but it's, again, like you have to have already kind of won the game to play it, so that might make it a little risky, but overall it could be very, very good. With that, let's move on to Warrior. So Warrior has a few cards as well. The first one here is Clash of the Colossals. This is a 3-mana rare spell. Add a random colossal minion to both players' hands. Yours costs 2 less. So you're kind of just playing roulette with this card, right? What's weird about it though is like you pay 3 mana for this, so even though you get the discount, you're still overpaying, and your opponent is not overpaying. Yeah, you can play your Colossal first, but a lot of Colossals, like, you'd actually rather be the second person to play it anyway, right? If you get a removal one. So this seems just not good to me. I'm sure there are ways you could combo this with stuff, but it just seems overall very risky. Like your opponent gets the better end of it, basically. So I don't think this is good, but I'm sure people will draft it because it's fun, but it doesn't seem good to me. Well, now let's move on to the next one, Igneous Lava Gorger. This is a 4-mana 3/5 elemental with taunt, Battlecry Dredge, gain armor equal to its cost. So overall, I mean, a 4-mana 3/5 taunt is a card, right? Not a great card, but it's a card. But then you also get Dredge and you also get armor, potentially a lot of armor, because you'll be able to choose a lot of armor if you want to most of the time, right? So overall, just a pretty good defensive minion. But now let's move on to Tidal Revenant. This is a 8-drop in Warrior as well, also a common, so you'll see a lot of them. 5/8 elemental, Battlecry, deal 5 damage, gain 8 armor. So again, just it seems a little mild, honestly, especially for a late game card that they're printing, but I mean, it does everything you need, right? It gains you health, it has initiative, you get a decent body with it. So overall, just a very, very good card. I'm curious if they'll actually play this in Constructed because it just seems a little weak. In Arena, you'll definitely see a lot of these. That's it for all the class cards here, but as I mentioned, Priest did have a reveal as well, so they haven't posted that yet, so let's just go to the reveal here. We'll talk about the ones that pop up. So there are 3 for Priest as well. The first one here is Herald of Light. This is a 3-mana 3/4 Naga. Battlecry. If you've cast a holy spell while holding this, restore 6 health to all friendly characters. You're probably going to have some holy spells, but whether you can actually like cast the holy spell while holding this, it could be a little awkward, but this is an effect that you're usually going to want to use later anyway, right? So you can play this just as a 3-mana 3/4 and maybe get a little bit of health or something, or you know, a damage meter, but also in the late game, like this can also be a huge win condition, because if you do get a couple big minions on board, value trade them, and then get to heal them all up to full while healing your face, your opponent can't kill you either. It's just an extremely, extremely powerful effect. So overall, just priests are going to be very happy to have this card. You won't always get the biggest thing out of it, but you know, sometimes it will just be winning. So any early game card, any tempo card basically that can also just be a late game win condition, always going to be very, very good. So very good addition to Priest there. Which is also a really good addition to Priest is this one, which is Drown. This is a 4-mana shadow spell. Put an enemy minion on the bottom of your deck. Basically, this is like Entomb. I believe Entomb actually shuffled it in, right? So, which I guess would have been awkward with all the dredges that or can be awkward with all the dredges because it's actually in rotation right now. But this one puts it right on the bottom, which because of all the dredges might actually just be better anyway. So this is like a super, super power crept Entomb. It's a not just an assassinate, but a silence removal. And if it's something you actually want, which it probably is if you're using this card on it, right? If you're hard removing it, it's probably something you'd like to have. Then you have potentially the ability to pull it up as well. So this just seems absolutely insane. Going to be one of Priest's best cards for sure, because even Entomb is like to this day very popular. It's one of the most commonly picked Priest cards, so this is just a much better Entomb. And then the last one here we have is Disarming Elemental. This is a very interesting one. It's a 4-mana 4/4 Elemental Battlecry. Dredge for your opponent. Set its cost to 6. It's almost like they've had similar cards where it's like you just discard a card for your opponent, because this kind of, it's like you dredge for your opponent. The idea would be you give them a really cheap card and then it's basically unplayable, right? It's like you get to freezing trap or ice trap the spell before they even, or minion before they even play it. So overall, I think that seems pretty good. It's just not their best, like obviously it doesn't provide you like instant tempo or anything, but overall I think you can afford to play something like this, so I think you'll see a fair amount of them, but definitely not as premium a card as, like, you know, a card like this one is. Alright, well I actually ended recording, but I just realized that there was also the Paladin reveal on Twitter, so let's just we'll go over these, and I'll edit these randomly into the middle of this video. So the first one here is Light Ray. This is a 9-mana 5/5 taunt elemental. The effect costs 1 less for each Paladin card you've played this game. In Arena lately, you get a lot of neutrals just because of how strong neutrals are in general. So you don't actually play that many Paladin cards. In Paladin, you don't actually play that many class cards in general. So this is actually probably not that good. In Paladin, Paladin's definitely one of the classes that you get more class cards because they have so many busted class cards, but it's going to be a while before this thing gets cheap enough that you're really going to want to play it. So I don't actually know that this is that good in Arena. Going to be great to just have basically probably a mostly free taunt later in the game, right? But it's more like a late game nice to have thing rather than just something that's going to be super crazy in Arena. But definitely not unpickable at all, just probably be mostly disappointing a lot more often than people would think there. The next one here we have is Frontlines. This is a 9-mana epic spell. Summon a minion from each player's deck. Repeat until either side of the battlefield is full. The thing with this card is you have to acknowledge that it's just really, obviously it's a 9-mana card and it's not guaranteed to do you anything to stay alive. So it's going to be a rather risky card to draft. Overall, probably just a little too risky to really expect to use. Obviously the potential is there, and let's move on to the last one here, which is Myrmidon. 3 mana 3/4 Naga. After you cast a spell on this minion, draw a card. So obviously in Arena you don't tend to have a whole bunch of ways to activate stuff like this, but you tend to have a few, right? But overall, I mean, it's a 3 mana 3/4 with potential upside, so you know, it goes in the bucket with all the other ones, right? Definitely not an impossible effect to get value out of, but you're not gonna expect too much basically, but it's just a solid curve addition for Paladin. And with that, back to previous programming. And so that is it for class cards. Let's go back over here. There are some neutral cards. There are a few that were announced immediately in that blog post. The first one here is Bubbler. This is a 1 mana 2/4 elemental. After this minion takes exactly 1 damage, destroy it. Very interesting, because a lot of the times it's a 1 mana 2/1, but a lot of times it's a 1 mana 2/4. Your opponent's going to be like, even if they are, obviously, ideally you play this against not a ping class, and then you're very likely to get a lot of extra stats out of this. Even if they are a ping class, it's a little better because I think they're going to be even more pressured to just ping it off rather than tempo, because you know, if your opponent plays a 2/1, you can always play a 2/3 and just eat it that way, but you're not going to want to play a 2/3 against this, because then this is just getting free value. So I think this is going to definitely be good, and sometimes going to be rather oppressive, frankly, but obviously not the most busted thing. But yeah, I think it's a very, very good 1-drop overall. Then let's move on to Snapdragon. This is a 3 mana 3/3 rare beast. Battlecry. Give all Battlecry minions in your deck +1/+1. You tend to have like a fair amount of Battlecries, not a ton. Lately they've actually been moving a bit away from Battlecries, I think. So if you look at like recent decks I've drafted, I don't think you tend to have that many Battlecries, but I mean, still, I mean, you're going to get some value out of this for sure, right? Its definite knock against it though is that it only buffs your deck. It does not buff your hand. So that's just going to make it rather delayed overall, probably make it not great overall, because you have to just, you might not even draw a Battlecry for a while, right? So like the time scale that you're actually going to get benefit out of this is rather sketchy, so it's probably not a great card overall, but it could work, right? Just probably not super great. Last one we have here on the non-legendaries, I believe, is Coilfang Constrictor. This is a 4 mana 5/4 Battlecry. Look at 3 cards in your opponent's hand and choose one. It can't be played next turn. I mean, this could be very annoying, right? You can win games off of this because, I mean, there are going to be specific things. Like, you can just go wide into Flame Strike turn. And if your opponent is a mage that's been using their resources to try not to die, and they only have 3 cards left, you just pick the Flame Strike and say, nope. And then you just kill them, right? So it's going to have its moments where it can be like game winning. Most of the time, it's probably pretty much just going to be a 4 mana 5/4. It's also just going to be good on curve though, because I mean, if you just play this on turn 4, you know your opponent has 4 or 5 mana, you see the card which is, you know, 4 or 5 mana, and you just tell them, nope, you can't play that one. And also, if nothing else, you're gaining that information of what they have, and that can, you know, that could be game winning by itself. There are going to be, it's not always going to be super nuts, but I think it's going to be very good enough of the time that it's just a very, very good neutral card that you're pretty much always going to want to pick, I think. With that, let's move on to the legendaries. There are 2 here, which both seem crazy. This one is a neutral colossal minion called Ozumat. It's an 8 mana 6/5 colossal +6, where each of the six colossals are just 1/3s. But it has a death rattle for each of the tentacles. Destroy a random enemy minion. So basically, if you're able to prevent the tentacles from dying and kill this off, then you can just like kill your opponent's entire board. So I'm a little unsure exactly how to evaluate this one, because obviously it has a bit of a vulnerability to AoE. If they have any kind of AoE where they just are able to deal 3 AoE and kill all of this, then this thing really isn't that good. However, if they don't have that, I mean, at the very least, this thing is going to provide a lot of disruption. It's also just, I mean, for 8 mana, you're getting, like, if you added all of that up, that would be like 1220 in the stats, right? You can't really do that and evaluate it that way, but it is just a lot of stats total. And, you know, your opponent's going to have to, like, start desperately trying to clear these tentacles. They might have to, like, not play a big minion so you can't trade this off. You might be able to kill it yourself, too. So overall, like, it's just, it does a lot. It's going to potentially be really crippling to your opponent if they just don't have the right way to deal with it. So I feel like, I don't know, it's risky enough, and like, you know, if you were to like have the choice of this or one of the class colossals, I imagine you'd probably choosing the class colossal just because they'd be more consistent most of the time. But, you know, again, like, I do think this is a good card. I'm just not sure how good, but I think it's going to be usually pretty good. And with that, let's move on to the last card here. I believe this is the last card. Yep, it is Neptulon the Tide Hunter. This is a 10 mana 7/7 elemental, also a colossal, with Rush and Wind Fury. Now, whenever Neptulon attacks, if you control any hands, they attack instead. So the two colossals you get are 4/2 elementals with immune while attacking. On the turn you play this, you get all these stats. You get like, what is that, like 15, 11 in stats? And you get to attack with him twice, and each time you attack, he deals 8 damage. What's really weird about this card is if you kill one of his hands, then you actually kind of effectively make him weaker, because he can't attack until the hand dies. So you can actually make him weaker after the fact, which is kind of weird. Because then if you kill both hands, then he's able to attack and you can deal 14 damage. Which is kind of funny, the way the card interaction works. But overall, like, yeah. These do not have Rush themselves, very important to note, so the issue with this card, like, this card is basically a new flavor of Raid Boss Onyxia, right? Compared to Raid Boss, though, the weakness here is that you can only attack 2 different minions the turn you play it, right? So where Raid Boss, you have like this 20 damage that you get to put wherever you want, basically. This is 8 damage you get to do twice. When you're playing like any 10 mana card, to a large extent, what makes, you know, something like Raid Boss so good is it just prevents you from dying. But if your opponent has a wide board and a whole bunch of minions, like, you can only deal with 2 of them, right? So that's a very significant relative weakness of this card, that it just isn't quite as good at dealing with wide boards and keeping you alive. But I mean, overall, like, it's a hell of a lot of stats. You do get still a lot of initiative, so it's going to be a very good card. So for the reasons I said, I don't think it's going to be as strong as Raid Boss Onyxia. Although in a control matchup, it might actually be better sometimes, but overall, you probably prefer the one, Raid Boss Onyxia, just because it keeps you alive more. It's probably the most important thing. But anyway, with that, that is it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think about all these neutral colossals, the card that was banned, all this other stuff, any of the other things we talked about here, or anything you want, because comments all help the algorithm. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff. But yeah, thanks a lot again. We'll see you guys in the next one, and we'll do another one of these probably on Monday or Tuesday when the rest of the cards are out. But yeah, see you later.